the sled push record as well for my gym. And people are like, you don't even lift. I'm like, you don't need to lift. You just need to have that mind power. So yes, I come correct when I need to.
The pass was made by Margot Loggia, returning the favor.
It's Will Loggia, second straight year. What a battle.
And the young man running for the hometown Terriers will win.
Let's go, Will, finish.
Now Will Loggia taking it out.
Will Loggia, Goober. Will Loggia, we got
Will Loggia, huge kick.
Welcome to The Kick, a runner's podcast. I'm your host, Will Loggia. I love running and I love a good kick. Today's guest is none other than Monique Kelley, former Boston University track athlete and current BU professor. Monique is one of the most ambitious and accomplished people I know, so it's no surprise that she has a background in track and field. We're going to talk about all the lessons that she's carried with her in her life and career that she gained from running and everything beyond that. So I'm super excited for this episode. Monique, thanks for joining me here on The Kick.
Thank you, Will. And appreciate your kind comment. And, talking about kicks, my God, the only thing I was known for was my kick. I couldn't do much else, but I certainly knew how to kick.
Really interesting. I like that a lot. Okay. We got the right guest because I definitely love a good kick. That was a big part of my racing strategy, if you will. And yeah, I always loved it. I actually was out at BU 2 weeks ago now for the Alumni Mile, and I kind of sat in second place the whole time. And then in the last lap, I outkicked the guy in first, and I won the Alumni Mile. So maybe
Nice.
I was lucky that you weren't there, but
I was just going to say, I'm glad I wasn't there, and I'm still rehabbing my hip labral tear. But let me tell you, that idea I'm going to take credit for, because the athletic department was asking me, how do we get our alums like you, kind of keep engaged in track and engaged in everything we're doing? This was years ago, at least 5 years ago. And I said, well, what about a race? Because at the time, my best friend, Caroline Ocean Callum, and I were still running. She's still, winning races and different things, me just hobbling along. And that was one thing that I had suggested is, why don't we do like a friendly race or a 5K or something, because we're all in the area, or can be if it's advertised properly. So I am taking credit for that, and I will accept royalties from BU as well.
I love that. Oh, it's great to know. I actually was curious how it all got started, but I think it's a great thing. It was my first year as an alum to be able to be there, and I gained a new appreciation for it, having that opportunity to get back on the track and race. But hopefully it'll continue to grow, and maybe you'll be there next year. Who knows?
Awesome. Congratulations on the win.
Appreciate it. I figured it was my best chance was being a recent stats. So we'll see where it goes from there. But you yourself as an athlete at BU, it was like early 2000s, right? When you were on the team.
I was 99 to 2003.
Your career, I think I saw that the 1500 meter was your kind of ideal, distance. Did you do cross country as well? Because I know for my generation now, if you're doing the 1500, you also definitely have to do cross country. But
Yeah, so Bruce Lehane was my coach, and I remember I was we were just talking about both being from New Jersey. I'm from South Jersey, and I did run one season of cross country my senior year in college or high school, because I was an 800-meter runner and a miler, 32. They throw us in everything. And I did have one season. I was a field hockey player outside of that. And that one season of cross country, I don't know if I ate my Wheaties that day or what, but I just remember having an incredible time in the 5K. I helped bring my team at Rancocas Valley to a state meet. And I got interviewed by the media. Like, it was a whole big thing. I was MVP. So coming to BU and hearing from Coach Lehane that I would have to run cross country, I thought, oh, this was great, because, I just did my one season and I can do that. Well, he didn't tell me that most of our girls were pretty much prepped for the Olympics. And so, like I said, I knew how to kick, and I certainly know how to go up a hill. Some was, I still have very, nightmares about that training that we did. But, other than that, these girls were just so fast. And so I spent most of my college career just trying to keep up with them.
that's great. I love that, because I think for me, I definitely, in the recruiting process in high school, I wanted to go to a team where there were people who were better than me. I
Yes.
love being pushed like that. And I like the shout out for Summit because a lot of people say, "Oh, Boston doesn't have hills," but
Oh, good God. I'm
yeah,
still afraid. It's been how many decades later? And I'm like, I'm never going back. But one day I will go back, even if I have to go slow and just remind myself of what did this feel like? Because at the time I loved it because honestly, it was the only thing I did where, maybe it's the kick and the 1500-meter training where I can just, finally not be last. But for the most part, yeah, I was just chasing all of these amazing runners for my career.
that's super cool. I know you also mentioned Bruce Lehane was your coach. I never had the privilege of being his athlete, but I know he's a legend. I mean, we have meets named after him now. What was your experience with him as your coach? And yeah, what can you speak to with him?
Well, he was a man of little words, and I always called him Sunshine because I was so peppy. Like I was the what always smiling in high school, the high school yearbook. So I'm still pretty peppy and full of energy, extra as I'm called here. Very passionate and extra. I get a lot in Boston, and so Coach Lehane was not. He was complete opposite. And so for me, he always kind of was like, I don't know what to do with you. He was this girl who walked on and who is like last place on a lot of things, at least from the BU team, and always getting injured. I had a stress fracture in my femur. I had this, I had that. So he just always shook his head. And I remember one conversation we had. He was talking about, I see your training, and I think you can be faster in your races. And I think maybe there's just maybe a mental block or something there. So he started to talk about, sensations and this and that. And I always teased him. I was like, yeah, it's the sensations. It's not the fact that like these girls are literally poised for the Olympics that I'm running with. It's the sensations. It's my head. It's this, it's that. But I always thought the world of him. And I remember when I graduated and went to New York and told him, oh, I'm still running and trying to get into run clubs, and actually ran the Boilermaker. My husband's from Utica, so I ran the world's largest 15K Boilermaker road race. I started to do half marathons, and he told me he actually was surprised, shocked, and impressed. So I'm glad that I was his comic relief and able to have that dynamic with him to know that like I'm still out here trying, even if I need to hobble. So yeah, I was glad to have that opportunity with him.
Nice that you were able to keep in touch with him beyond your collegiate career as well. I know I'm becoming familiar with how the distances definitely get longer after college if you want to keep going. Generally, most races that you're entering are going to be, half marathons, marathons, longer distances. So beyond college, I know you kind of liked your mid distance while you were competing in college, but how has that transition been? Do you continue to still run? I know you said you're dealing with an injury now. Is it something that is still a really big part of your life? I always think once a runner, always a runner, no matter if you're doing it now or not. But curious to hear what your status is.
100%. Yeah, I'm, rehabbing this labral tear now. I think it's just wear and tear. I did the race to remember here in Boston, 15 half marathon, 3 times. And the last time I was thinking, oh, I have a sharp pain, but we just run through it. That's what we do. And finally, the BU doctor actually was like, I think it might be, a labral tear in your hip. So you're gonna have to slow it down. And so I got really comfortable with strength training, pool running, doing cross training and other things. And in fact, I am no stranger to that because when I had a femoral stress fracture at BU, I was pool running every day and came back after rehabbing for almost a year and ran in the, we were America East back then, our division, but I ran in the America East meet, that 15K or I'm sorry, 1500 meters, and got a PR. And so I know the value of cross training, that like it doesn't mean you're coming back and having to start from zero. If you are a smart cross trainer and you have resilience and you're committed every day to doing your exercises, you actually can get your best time. And so that followed me as a life lesson, but also certainly follows me now, a couple of decades later, where I'm still running. So I'm running now 12 minutes on, 1 minute off. And to your point, always a runner. Even if I'm in that 1 minute of walking, I'm still a runner. And I still support runners. I have a run club that I run with when I was at Takeda Pharmaceuticals before becoming a professor, and just always support runners. I had a friend in high school who was a gymnast. So she was a D1 gymnast, very short, not a long stride. and she's actually a year older than me, and she qualified for the Boston Marathon and ran under 3 hours for her first Boston. So I think, I don't know if it's something in the water in South Jersey or what, or maybe just, like wine, when you age, like the best life is ahead of you. But yeah, I'm just always supportive of all runners at any stage where they are, new runners and also runners who have been doing this for a while.
I'm curious what kind of advice you have with being able to push yourself outside of the structure of a team and having a coach, and what kind of, not necessarily only in running but in your career and life, has pushed you to achieve things on your own accountability.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I remember when I moved to New York after graduating BU, I had a few friends and coworkers who were, D1 swimmers and did other things. And they said, God, it's really hard when you're not on a team anymore to just, self motivate. And I said, well, then why not join another team? And so whether it is a run club with, people you work with, or maybe clubs like Greater Boston or New York Road Runners, wherever you are, thinking about team differently. Like, okay, maybe it doesn't have to necessarily be for a college career, but it still can be a team where you're held accountable. And my run club, I'm injured now, but we, run every Wednesday. They're still out there, probably in negative 20-degree weather, running every Wednesday around the Charles, and we're accountable to each other. We check in, who's running today, who's meeting, and every week we meet, and it's more of a social time as well as a great opportunity to run. And so things like that I think are really helpful, because running, even though everyone says it's an individual sport, we runners know no, there's really a connection in running with others, and our friends are the people that we run with, and so it's important to keep that up.
Yeah, it's an individual sport, but it's made so much better when you're sharing it with other people. And I think finding those spaces beyond the structure of, high school running or college running, it becomes a little more difficult, but very rewarding when you can do so. So, Monique, another aspect that we need to get into is your incredible career with Boston University. You're still there, you're a professor. A lot of my professors at BU were BU alumni as well, but I don't know if I can think of any who were also a student athlete themselves. So, that relatability, that's pretty cool. I think if I had a professor who, was a former student athlete themselves, that would be something to really connect on. Do you First off, your experience being a professor, uh, how do you like that whole side of things? But then also being a former athlete, do you feel like you can sometimes connect with those students in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. And I never set out to become a professor. I was, on the track team. I was in CAS, failing pre-med bio, withdrawing from engineering physics. I'm like, why do I need all this just to be a nutritionist? So who knows if things have changed there. But I kind of fell into comm, and I really liked the media relations class, CM 441, that I now teach, one of the classes I teach, because it taught me a profession. And I really appreciated that. Okay, media relations, I can pitch to reporters. I can put myself out there, like, no problem. Once you wear a track uniform, and for those of you who know what I'm talking about, you can do anything because you're pretty much out there in briefs. You can pitch to a reporter. So yeah, I just had this no fear mentality, and after graduating, went straight to New York, worked in PR agencies, found my way back here 12 years later, and that's when I started guest speaking. And I did guest speak with the athletes, student athletes. I got involved with some of the, events for track. And then that turned into adjuncting for 2 years. So I was doing that Tuesday nights, rewarding myself with an insomnia cookie, which I still do every Tuesday night. And then that turned into full time. And so I am definitely a product of, I just always try to put value out there and do what I can to support others, and opportunities open when that happens through my network. So nothing I set out to do, but now that I'm here, I very much connect with all students, especially ones that are hungry. And I find our student athletes usually have some sense of hunger. I can pick out the students that are student athletes because I could just tell in terms of their structure, how regimented they are. They're always thinking ahead. Okay, we have the homework for today, but what about next week? Or what about this? They're already thinking about things that, typically other students aren't. And not just track runners. I'm talking hockey, I'm talking basketball. I mean, every sport is just positioned differently. And I think it's a lot of the tools that now is certainly has increased since the time I was there for things like career readiness and all of the support that the department offers student athletes. So it does make a huge difference, which I'm happy about because it's hard to juggle your sport and academics, let alone think about your future. And so a lot of our student athletes are going into these amazing careers and are incredibly accomplished. And I think it's a lot due in part of the structure that you have here and that ability to balance very challenging schedules and demands.
And you're an expert in something that I think is one of the most important things for students coming out of college. And we hear it all the time, and some people, are scared of it. But networking, I think it's phenomenal. I love it. It's just fun, really. If you think about even something like this podcast, the way that guests come on the show, it's through networking. And
Like,
I've found it so fascinating how everybody's connected to different people, and it's just like a big tree that you can grow with all these different branches. And it's so amazing to be able to hear all these different perspectives. A lot of the work that I've done in running media before this was very focused on competitive running athletes in like one very specific lane. And
mhm.
starting my own project here, I've been able to talk to people who are former runners, highly competitive, not as competitive, all these different uh, parts of the running world, and I've found that to be super interesting. But on the note of networking, you recently wrote a book about just that, redefining networking, how to lead with your unique values. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, yeah, and as I mentioned before, networking helped get me this full-time gig. So the beauty of networking is that if you're putting value out and you're contributing to people, they'll keep you in mind. I'm a big believer in karma and a big believer in doing right by people, and people will keep you in mind for opportunities that they see you're a good fit for. And, when I was kind of getting the adjunct position, I thought to myself, why do you want me? One, I'm a full-time working professional, so I can only dedicate 1 day a week to it. But also, I don't have a master's, I don't have a PhD, I'm not a teacher by trade, and you all have my transcript and you know about that failure in pre-med bio. And that was the thing. It was like, well, you're not coming here to teach theory, thank God. And it was more that, well, no, you're actually going to help teach the profession and you're still in the profession. And we want people that are continuing to work, especially communications, that changes every day. You can't have a professor who hasn't been in it for 5, 10+ years teaching new media, teaching, well, what is the implication of AI, and really being credible in that way. And so I was happy, I was relieved that, oh, okay, I don't have to pretend to be someone else. It's more about the skills that I have can really support students in a unique way. And so doing that for a couple years opened up the opportunity to interview for this full-time role that I've had now for 3.5 years. But yeah, networking throughout my career. So when I graduated desperately needed a job, wasn't really sure what to do. And my friend who graduated a year before me at had an opening in her investor relations agency in New York. And that's how I got there. There was an opening on the media team, and I interviewed with her team, and it was like, great, Corey, always your network is basically doing your PR and helping to build trust where you're an unknown. People don't know you in the interview, but they know the mutual friend and the respect that their current employee has for you to refer you. So that always helps you to become a known and build that trust. And so that's 22+ years of my career. It's always been about how do I show up, support others, be clear on the value I can provide. And sometimes you won't know, but in listening, building relationships, understanding what people need, you can likely find ways to, if nothing else, connect them to people who can help them if it's not you directly.
If there's anybody listening who is a current student at Boston University, I cannot recommend enough to enroll in your class if possible, because the value that you provide and the insight you provide in that department is so important for students. And if you're not in that position to be able to take Monique's class, we mentioned her book, but also LinkedIn is a place where I am constantly coming across your posts, and I find them very interesting. I think the algorithm has picked up in some sort of way that I gravitate towards the post because, like I said, you consistently coming up in my feed. I think you're probably the biggest LinkedIn celebrity that I'm connected with.
Yeah,
Um,
well, and I got a paid sponsorship last year from Work Vivo from Zoom. So I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. And I was like, I need a demo. Like, I don't just, even if it's my first paid sponsorship, I'm not out there, talking about something as a commercial that I don't use. And so they were nice enough to really kind of talk me through what offerings they have. But yeah, LinkedIn, to your point, Will, is so untapped. 1 billion people use LinkedIn, and they're saying only 1% of users are posting regularly. So they don't even need you to post every day to be considered part of that 1%, but you do need to post, engage, like, reach out for connections, do all of the things. And you don't have to do it every day, but because there's such an audience on it, it's a great, what we call white space, to be able to talk about stories about what you do. People don't know how you can help them, especially with a job, unless you start talking about what you do, the stories or the events or how you're helping clients. All of that helps shape for them what you might be able to do for their organization or their friend's organization. So it's not self promotion. I look at it as, especially for the companies, I'm a consultant now for my own business, working with biopharma companies that make serious medical conditions. And so for me, I'd love to work with companies and stay plugged in there because I know the value I can contribute internally and externally to those companies can help people ultimately stay healthier.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's not even something that I generally would have thought of, but that's 100% true. And with LinkedIn, I think a point that you brought up about, people being on there but not necessarily posting, you see it all the time, and you don't even necessarily have to be posting to be coming up in that feed. Like even just leaving a comment on another insightful post, now suddenly your thoughts are being shared with your network. And so I think there's limitless opportunities to how you can be engaged on there, but definitely a platform that you have figured out. And like I said, the position you're in as a professor at BU is one where that is super important for students to be getting involved in. And yeah, I'm curious, what is like your number one recommendation to a student or a recent graduate with LinkedIn, and how to utilize that as something that can help their career move forward?
Yeah, I work with a lot of students and have come across a lot of students. I'm the advisor for the Public Relations Student Society of America for BU's chapter. So I'm always meeting students. And I would say online, I only see a handful, maybe less, that are actually leveraging LinkedIn outside of just searching for jobs. And so, again, this whole opportunity and white space to be able to tell stories. And so I share with my students. Most of you are interning, or some of you are student athletes. Some of you are, you've just, finished your first year. So there are some milestones, and to take, our comms background, there's news folk, there's newsworthy information. Maybe there are 3 takeaways that you have from your internship or study abroad in London, or maybe there are insights, or just you've done a project with a big team and you want to celebrate people and acknowledge and shout them out. I mean, it could be used for so many different things, but being on it more than just for searching. And like you said, commenting, showing up. I have a lot of guest speakers that I bring in, and I encourage the students to reach out to these guest speakers on LinkedIn, but not just to follow them, but to actually look at what they're posting. And if this is information and content that they like, to engage, repost, and like it, because that's a way to show up for these guest speakers that dedicated at least 30, 40 minutes of their time for free to be able to help students. But not a lot of students do that. In fact, most guest speakers come to me afterwards and say, did I do a good job? Because students aren't reaching out to me. I thought that they would love to reach out to me. And these are student or professionals from Spotify, Verizon, Microsoft. I mean, we're talking big companies. And because I love food, Chick-fil-A, Ben and Jerry's. I mean, all kinds of great companies that students can be starting to build their network with, but a lot of times shy away. And so I always encourage students to do that. Also, I bring in companies for students to pitch to, like mock new business pitches, and they pitch ideas. Same thing. You're already giving value to these companies with media ideas from Gen Z. They all want, Gen Z is a huge target for most companies. And so if you're providing that value, leading with your value with these companies, you've now built an opportunity to follow up and see if you can have a one-on-one, maybe talk about potential opportunities in the future for what makes a great candidate for if they ever are hiring. I mean, these are great. Use your projects and use the guest speaking opportunities as jumping off points to be able to have deeper conversations and connections with people to build your network.
One of my favorite things as a student at BU was the guest speakers and being able to, you know, not only, like you said, the value that they provided while they were there, but connecting after. I mean, no brainer for sure. I don't know if it's that people are intimidated or, any number of reasons, but definitely take advantage of those opportunities. I'm curious, have you heard of or know about Fernando Mendoza, the collegiate quarterback? Okay, so I'm gonna
Probably
put
not because I'm not a football person. I just figured out who Saquon Barkley was last year when my dad, who's a huge Eagles fan because we're South Jersey, was like, I need a Barkley jersey. And I said, who, Charles? He said, first of all, that was like 30 years ago. He hasn't been on the Sixers since you were little. But yes, Saquon Barkley, look him up. And I did and was blown away.
Yes, okay, yeah, he's amazing. But I think you would find this interesting because he is basically the best player in college football right now for Indiana. Just won the national championship,
Mhm.
and he is a huge LinkedIn user. He posted
Oh,
about winning the title. He is like constantly updating his network, and it's kind of gone viral as like, here's a guy who really doesn't need to be utilizing LinkedIn. Like he's
right.
gonna go get drafted into the NFL, probably the first overall pick. So
Yeah,
it's just kind of this really unique way of him kind of showcasing his professionalism, and he's really stood out as this guy who like handles himself very well. So
love it.
I'll send it your way, but it's
Please do. Yes.
yeah, Fernando Mendoza on LinkedIn is a really cool.
That's wonderful. And if he's not already setting himself up for entrepreneurship, he is without knowing it. I'm sure that's part of the strategy because, again, it's not about having a big following, but it is about having a perspective. And so many people think, yes, I'm a thought leader, or, just because I'm posting. In order to be a thought leader, you actually have to lead thoughts and you have to be provocative, misunderstood, sometimes hated. But LinkedIn is the opportunity to do that. And if you are in a position, especially like he is about to be drafted, he's got a great platform and I think personally a responsibility to be able to use his voice in a way for good. So that's amazing that he's already starting to do that.
Yeah, really cool to see. I'm curious. You mentioned some Eagles players, but are you a Patriots fan? I know they're in the Super Bowl now, or
I know this is awkward. I was so sad. It was like, somebody died in the family. I was like, oh my God, my Eagles, what happened, Jalen? So, yeah, I am supportive of the home team. I have been back in Boston for 11 years now. So I will root. I will not say that I'm a full-fledged Patriots fan, but I do appreciate that even Cardi B from New York is like here rooting, cheering on right there, so it's nice to kind of see that the rivalry, especially when I was here at BU against, New York and Boston teams, it's loosened up a little bit to where we can at least support each other when it counts.
yeah, I mean, you got to get into the Super Bowl. I think it's a good time, and especially since you're in a city with one of the participating teams, it makes sense that you would align with them. But good to know. Very exciting as that builds up. Sports are, always going on. And right now I had to wear my BU hockey jersey because BU is in the final against Boston College. I think it's next Monday
Yeah.
for the Beanpot final. Do you ever have hockey students who need to miss class for games? Have you ever come across?
Well, let me tell you about the hockey students. And because hockey is my favorite sport of all time, and I'm talking like deep cut minor league, I have, first of all, my husband's best friend. It's going to be one of those like 6 degrees of separation. Husband's best friend, his son, who's about 16, is the top goalie right now. I want to say triple A, double A. I don't know the exact terminology, but he's the top goalie, and he actually in April is going to be in some big tournament. So I'll probably be there, but I'm so proud of him. And I just in general love the sport of hockey. So with that, prefacing that, I do get a lot of hockey students sometimes, especially in my career readiness course, where they're not really sure how to leverage the fact that they are BU hockey players as a part of their narrative for cover letters or just interviews. And they kind of see it separate that, well, you know, I'm a hockey player, but what does that have to do with me being in real estate or wanting to be in advertising versus recognizing the unique skill sets and benefits that you have as a student athlete. And so I'm always about tell a story. Don't just say you're somebody who is time oriented or detail oriented or, regimen or discipline because you play hockey. Give me a story where that can really, be brought to life. And some of those skills really do apply to those industry, those professions that you want. So yeah, I get that a lot where either hockey players in particular don't know that you should be talking about that and it's something that you should be proud of and how it integrates into your value for a profession. But then I get the other camp who says, well, I'm a hockey player and I want to be an entrepreneur. And the first thing I said, I actually said this in one of the student athlete development sessions. I said, well, that's great. I am a consultant. I get paid $300 an hour for Fortune 50 companies. Who's paying you $300 an hour and for what? And they look at me and they're kind of like, oh, I'm like, right. As a consultant, companies hire you typically because you are offering value that they can't get either through their agency partners or their employees. So you need to be advising them. You are the expert at something that they are hiring you for. What is that? So, and then usually it's crickets. And like I said, buy the book and you'll be able to find out other ways that you can demonstrate your unique value.
Buy the book, definitely. Yeah, there's so much to break down there. I think that's interesting. BU is known as a hockey school, so I think that's why, we all know it so well. But that's super cool that you have somebody, 16-year-old with that kind of talent. I'm telling you, these
Amazing.
16-year-olds right now, there's in the running world, it just actually happened at the BU indoor track, but the world record was set for, is it under 20 or under 18? But the kid is 16 years old and he ran a 3:48 mile.
Wow. Oh, is
Yeah,
that even possible at
I
this
know,
age? Oh my God.
ridiculous, right? So,
Wow.
uh, yeah, it was crazy. Foster Malik, who is one of the greatest BU athletes ever, a good friend of mine, he was on the podcast. He ran in that same race. He ran 3:51, amazing PR, but he was like third or fourth place, and the kid who won was 16 years old. So it's just
Amazing.
crazy seeing, these young athletes, and it goes to show that these records are all going to be broken. It's just a matter of time. Um,
Absolutely.
but super inspirational to see that. So Monique, on the kick, we do something a little special. I didn't really preface it with you, so hopefully you're ready.
All
But
right.
the way I like to finish episodes is with rapid fire questions, 10.
Okay.
And the idea is that it's like the kick of a podcast, finishing strong, finishing fast.
Cool.
So I will time 10 questions, but just give your best answers.
I'm ready. You
Not
forget, I am a big Game Show Network fan. I watch it all the time with my parents, so I am ready for this.
okay. Yeah, I would expect you're going to be quite good. Um, so we'll give it a go. The clock will start after I ask the first question. So let me get a timer ready here.
Okay.
All right, here we go. What do you miss most about being on the track team?
Lobster night.
Did you listen to music before races?
Always.
Rather run alone or with a group?
With a group.
Coffee before a run or not?
T.
Biggest rival school while you're at BU?
BC.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Favorite social media?
LinkedIn.
Favorite place to run in Boston?
Charles River.
Music or silence like when you're just running, not a race?
Music.
race you're most proud of from college?
America East Championship race.
You just set a record. That was
Yay!
3 seconds. Lowest
Woo!
what anybody's ever done. I was like, I took you seriously when you said you were gonna be fast, but
I'm
then
not playing.
you locked it in, and I'm like, I better be ready to ask the next question. Like, I've got the this is something
I
totally
am not play. I have the what is that called? The sled push record as well for my gym, and people are like, "You don't even lift." I'm like, "You don't need to lift. You just need to have that mind power." So yes, I come correct when I need to.
I think it is kind of an example of everything you're about with your ability to lock in, whether it be in running, in your career as a professor, just your ambition. I think your final segment there definitely showcased that. So I'm glad we were able to do that. But
Awesome, that was fun.
yeah, you nailed it. We'll definitely be clipping that and putting that on the social media accounts. New record, Monique Kelley, 30 seconds.
All right, South Jersey represent.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. So you did say that you are a music person though.
I absolutely love music, and it's funny. I wish I played music. My sister, played a little bit, but my grandfather, not even great grandfather, my grandfather played saxophone with Duke Ellington. So I always say maybe it comes from him and like the roots of just really appreciating music and all genres of music.
Okay, wow. Yeah. Another thing that I wasn't sure if I could incorporate in the final 10 questions because I feel like it needs to be talked about a little bit more, with a little more time. But something that I think is super cool. You were teammates with one of the most legendary, famous alums of the BU track program.
Yes.
So Uzo Aduba, right? She
Yeah.
was in Orange is the New Black and just a really cool kind of celebrity teammate that you had there.
Mhm.
Um, what was that like being on a team with her? Did you have a sense that she was going to be involved in things like that down the line?
Well, I mean, Uzo was at the Fine Arts School, CFA, and she was a opera singer. So she studied opera. And I remember when she moved to New York, it was right around the same time I did. And I remember, she always had a presence. I mean, Uzo was always Uzo, she always had the presence. But no, I personally didn't think she even wanted to go into acting. She started off Broadway. Then all of a sudden, I'm on a subway station in Astoria, Queens, where we, originally first lived. And I look and I say, "Oh, Uzo, what is this Netflix?" And I see your picture in a billboard. Like, what is it? And I texted her. I was like, what? And she's like, oh, I'm on a new show. I said, oh, okay. Then all of a sudden it was Uzo. What is this? And now I'm like, Uzo, like, why is Katie Couric and Taylor Swift like, messaging you on social media? So it is fun to see her because I've seen her play. My best friend Caroline, Ocean Callum and I went to see a play that she was headlining on Broadway not that long ago. It was during COVID. I'm just really proud of her because anytime I see her, we don't see each other much or talk all the time or that kind of thing. But when I do see her, she just seems to be her normal self. It's just Uzo. And she's always asking, how's Joe? My husband, who was then a boyfriend when I was at college. How's Joe? How's Joe? She's always, kind as her normal self is. And yeah, I think appreciate and I'm proud of her mostly for that for someone who is such a celebrity, as you mentioned, and so well known and involved in awesome things, she's still her same grounded self. And that's hard to do. And I very much respect her.
Hard to do, but very refreshing to hear that from your perspective as somebody who, our teammates when we're, on any team, whatever sport it may be, you create this bond, whether you're especially close with everybody or not, just the shared experience of, being on a team together and facing these challenges together. I think it does bond you for life. So that's really cool to hear, just this one example of one teammate who has kind of remained, your teammate for life, despite whatever happens and the success they have, in their life. That's awesome. I think that's a great note to end on. Monique, thank you so much for coming on the show here. For those listening who have not already added your book to their cart, please go do so. Super valuable insight on networking and really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Will. It was a pleasure.